Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a spiritual awakening and wondered, am I awakening or am I depressed? If so, you're not alone. In fact, one of the most confusing parts of awakening is that it can look and feel remarkably similar to depression. You lose interest in things you once enjoyed, your motivation disappears, you pull away from people, you question everything. And some days it feels like the color has drained out of your entire life. Nobody talks about this part because social media has convinced us that awakening is all bliss, synchronicities, angel numbers, and inner peace. But awakening often begins with loss, the loss of certainty, the loss of identity, the loss of beliefs you once built your life around. And grief always follows loss. What many people mistake for depression is actually the grieving process that occurs when an old version of you begins to die. The career that once defined you no longer feels meaningful. The relationships that once felt comfortable suddenly feel restrictive. The goals you spent years chasing no longer inspire you. You haven't necessarily lost yourself. You may be losing the version of yourself that was never meant to remain, and that can feel devastating. Awakening asks you to release what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. But before something new can emerge, there is often an empty space, a void, a period where the old life is gone, but the new one hasn't fully arrived, and that space can feel frightening. You may feel disconnected, numb, lost, directionless. You may spend days wondering what's wrong with you. But sometimes the problem isn't that you're broken. Sometimes the problem is that you're transforming. A caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly overnight. There is a stage where it completely dissolves inside the cocoon. Everything familiar falls apart before something new can form. Human transformation often follows the same pattern. However, it's important to recognize that spiritual awakening and clinical depression are not the same thing. If you're experiencing persistent hopelessness, thoughts of self-harm, severe impairment in daily functioning, or overwhelming emotional distress, please seek professional support. That said, awakening and mental health challenges can exist together. You don't have to choose one explanation over the other. The most important thing to understand is this: just because your old life no longer fits does not mean something is wrong. Just because you're questioning everything does not mean you're failing. And just because you feel lost today does not mean you will stay lost forever. Sometimes what feels like depression is actually your soul refusing to return to a life it has outgrown. The darkness is not always a sign that you're falling apart. Sometimes it's a sign that you're becoming someone new. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever mistaken your awakening for depression? And if you're navigating this journey right now, subscribe for more conversations about the realities of awakening that nobody else seems willing to talk about. Thank you taking the time to connect with my content, and always remember, you are loved.